Jaya Madhava Kunjabi Gopi Jana Baba Yashodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Hari Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Jai Baladevi Subhadra Jaya Srinataji Jaya Balagopan Jaya Srinataji Jaya Ki Govardhan Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivradikacharya Astodhara Satyashi Shrimad's Divine Grace, founder of Iskana Bhai Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, granted us Shrimadbhagavatam Ki, their most merciful Lordship Shri Kunja Bihari Ki, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra Ki, Shri Nathaji Shri Balagopal Ki, Shri Gauranitai Ki, Nitai Go Premanam. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the Lord, the Spirit of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Well, someone has moved the marker out of place. So, I believe we're on text, what, 26? 29.
Yeah. We're at 29.
Where I am, right here. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 12, Text 29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudiraya
Tato Jayamudiraye
Nashtaprayashu Bhadreshu
Nashtaprayashu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki
Bhaktar Bhagavati Naistiki
Iti
Iti
Rajna
Rajna
Upadeshya
Upadishya
Iti Rajna Upadeshya
Iti Rajna Upadishya
Vipra
Vipra
Jataka
Jataka
Kovida
Kovida
Vipra Jataka Govida
Vipra Jataka Kovida
Labdapachitaya
Laptapas Chitaya
Sarve
Sarve
Labdapachitaya Sarve
Laptapachitaya Sarve
Pratigamu
Jagmu
Svakan
Swakan
Grihan
Grihan
Pratikjagmu Svakan Grihan.
Pratijagmu Swakan Grihan.
We're on chapter 12, text 29, you know. Iti Rajna Upadishya
Kiragya Upadishya
Viprajataka Kovida
Kovida
Labdha Pachitaya Sarve Pratijagmu Svakan Grihan
Pratijagmu Swakan Grihan.
Iti Rajna Upadishya
Iti Rajna Upadishya
Viprajataka Kovida
Viprajataka Kovida
Labdha Pachitaya Sarve
Laptapachitaya Sarve
Pratijagmu Svakan Grihan.
Pratijagmu Swakan Grihan. Iti Rajna Upadishya
Iti Rajna Upadishya
Viprajataka Kovida
Viprajataka Kovida
Labdapachitaya Sarve
Labdha Pachitaya Sarve
Pratijagmu Swakan Grihan.
Pratijagmu Svakan Grihan.
Iti Rajna Upadishya
Iti Rajna Upadishya Viprajataka Kovida Labdha Pachitaya Sarve Pratijagmu Swakan Grihan. Iti Rajna Upadishya Viprajataka Kovida Labdha Pachitaya Sarve Pratijagmu Swakan Grihan. Iti thus
Thus,
Rajne
Rajne
unto the king
unto the king.
Upadishya
Upadishya
having advised
having advised.
Vipra
Vipra
persons well versed in the Vedas
persons well versed in the Vedas.
Jataka Kovida
Jataka Kovida
persons expert in astrology and in the performance of birth ceremonies
persons expert in astrology and in the performance of birth ceremonies.
Labdha Apachitaya
Labdapachitaya
those who had received sumptuously as remuneration
those who had received sumptuously as remuneration.
Sarve
Sarve
all of them
all of them.
Pratijagmu
Pratijagmu
went back
went back.
Swakan
Swakan
their own
their own
Grihan
Grihan
houses.
houses.
Ita Rajna Upadishya Viprajataka Kovida Labdha Pachitaya Sarve Pratijagmu Svakan Grihan. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus those who were expert in astrological knowledge and in performance of the birth ceremony instructed King Yudhisthira about the future history of his child. Then, being sumptuously remunerated, they all returned to their respective homes. Please repeat. Thus, those who were expert in astrological knowledge
Thus, those who were expert in astrological knowledge
and in performance of the birth ceremony
and in performance of the birth ceremony
instructed King Yudhishthira about the future history of his child. Then, being sumptuously remunerated, they all returned to their respective homes. Thus, those who were expert in astrological knowledge and in performance of the birth ceremony instructed King Yudhishthira about the future history of his child. Then, being sumptuously remunerated, they all returned to their respective homes. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Vedas are the storehouse of knowledge, both material and spiritual. But such knowledge aims at perfection of self-realization. In other words, the Vedas are the guides for the civilized man in every respect. Since human life is the opportunity to get free from all material miseries, it is properly guided by the knowledge of the Vedas in matters of both material needs and spiritual salvation. The specific intelligent class of men who were devoted particularly to the knowledge of the Vedas were called the Vipras, or the graduates of the Vedic knowledge. There are different branches of knowledge in the Vedas, of which astrology and pathology are two important branches necessary for the common man. So the intelligent men, generally known as the Brahmins, took up all the different branches of Vedic knowledge to guide society. Even the Department of Military Education, Dhanurveda, was also taken up by such intelligent men. And the Vipras were also teachers of this section of knowledge, as were Dronacharya, Kripacharya, etc. The word Vipra mentioned herein is significant. There is a little difference between the Vipras and the Brahmins. The Vipras are those who are expert in karmakanda, or fruitive activities, guiding the society towards fulfilling the material necessities of life, whereas the Brahmins are expert in spiritual knowledge of transcendence. This department of knowledge is called Jnana-kanda, and above this, there is Upashan-kanda. Culmination of Upashan-kanda is the devotional service of the Lord, Vishnu. And when the Brahmins achieve perfection, they're called Vaishnavas. Vishnu worship is the highest of the modes of worship. Elevated Brahmins are Vaishnavas engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And thus Shrimadbhagavatam, which is the science of devotional service, is very dear to the Vaishnavas. And as explained in the beginning of Shrimadbhagavatam, it is the mature fruit of Vedic knowledge and is superior subject matter above the three khandas, namely Karmakanda, Jnana-kanda, and Upashan. Amongst the Karmakanda experts, the Jataka expert, Vipras were good astrologers who could tell all the future history of a born child simply by the astral calculations of the time, Lagna. Such expert Jataka Vipras were present during the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, and his grandfather, Maharaj Yudhishthira, awarded the Vipras sufficiently with gold, land, villages, grains, and other valuable necessaries of life, which also included cows. There is a need of such Vipras in the social structure, and it is the duty of the state to maintain them comfortably as designed in the Vedic procedure. Such expert Vipras, being sufficiently paid by the state, could give free service to the people in general, and thus the department of Vedic knowledge would be available for all. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshushan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. See, these professions of Brahmins, you might say they're professions, they're giving it freely, the knowledge. So this is completely contradictory to some extent from the kind of positions being now taken by people who are filling those positions that should be fulfilled by qualified Brahmins. And they are the administrators of the laws, and they are learned, as it's revealed here, in some of them in all of the sciences of God. So this is what's really lacking in society now, and this is the absolute necessity of society, for society to function properly. The established, group of society that has been put in their positions in order for society to be guided. Yesterday, I found on the internet what I've been preaching for the last 50 years or so about the Hopi prophecies. And they are saying, now I came to find out, they are calling the prophecies that they read from are written in stone in a mountain. And so they call it the talking mountain. So it's not that the mountain is itself necessarily talking, but there are engravings in stone in the mountain that say this is going to be the year that the axis is realigned of the earth. I say realigned, but I don't know, it's questionable whether it's necessarily going to be the same north and south poles. The earth could be so completely flipped on its side that what was once east and west may turn into north and south by the realigning, though, and it will at first be very catastrophic, but by people working together with one another, the only people that will be left will be the people that will be qualified to be able to work in the society that will be developed after this catastrophe takes place. So, when we do go back, I'll look up in which canto it is described, the fleeing of the believers of God. When I first came to the ISKCON movement, this was very strong in my mind because I had only a few years earlier found out about this. But because it wasn't understood by the person I had took initiation from, he more or less put it out of my mind by declaring to me that these people were not of God and they were meat eaters and so many things. But I came to find out later on, these people have their ritualistic ceremonies that they've been taking part in since the foundation of the planet, and they have their origin stories as well. And their process of offering food to the Kachinas, and if you look at the Kachinas, you will see Lord Jagannath. So they have been practicing their ways, and by whatever civilization of people it was that established them, that left them their future written, just as this is being revealed as seers who can see into the future, to be able to reveal the life of a particular person. There are seers as well who have written on these walls of the mountain the future events that would take place, all of which in the last 5,000 years or more have actually taken place. So it foretold the coming of the white race of people onto this continent, foretold them using stagecoaches drawn by animals, using what it called the boxes, that they would come here on the water, and then the boxes would be pulled by animals, then the boxes would be using what's underneath the floors of the people to drive them, and that would be referring to the oil. So, just as we consider the Mother Earth to be the mother, we also designate specific areas on the planet as parts of the mother's body. So they are considering this mountain to be the mouth by the fact that it has recorded in it all of the history of what's going to take place on the planet. So it will be interesting to see. It speaks of a coming together of all the same way Shrimadbhagavatam is explaining, of all the peoples of the world who are on the spiritual paths, and that it will be the beginning of the golden age, as it's described in there, which full knowledge of God then, because see, when we no longer have our forms of transportation and the use of petroleum to trust upon for using, we will have to resort back to that original means of transportation we were previously having. But they use horses and elephants and all kinds of things as a means of transportation when Krishna was on the planet. But see, there may as well come siddhic perfections in souls that Krishna is going to empower when this time comes in order to save society from the catastrophes that will be taking place and to protect society to be able to develop. And what is given as an outline in Bhagavatam is the means for society to be protected through those times and to reestablish amongst all peoples of the world the laws of God. That's what Bhagavatam is. And it is said to be able to endure for the next 10,000 years. But it's going to take that kind of a devastating event on the earth for the systems of the world all to be brought down. And they will be brought down. It'll be by God's forces. And nevertheless, there will be those amongst all peoples who will be saved, and there will be those who will be set on their way to their next journey and their next adventure into either the spiritual or material world. See, the thing that knowledge does for us as a protective force of Krishna, not only does it give us a view into the future, but it gives us a guide on how to lead our lives in the present. And by acknowledging those guidelines and taking part in the spiritual activities described by Bhagavatam, then we're automatically protected. And we can know that Krishna is giving us that guidance. Krishna is advising us to remember him playing his flute. So, for this that is spoken to Arjuna on the battlefield, Arjuna had direct experience of that. So, Krishna's instruction to us takes the form of this japa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Every time we're taking this japa, it is a remembrance of Krishna's form playing the flute to Krishna as Supersoul within us. That's what he hears this chanting as. So then we can understand that this is an instruction for us to understand the means for him to share his consciousness with us. So then we can have the same thoughts. And we realize that our chanting is reminding Krishna of his own flute playing. And we think like that. Then we're thinking like Krishna thinks. And we're evaluating with our minds that activity of the chanting. And this evaluation of the chanting, because the chanting is an eternal sound vibration. It is an act that the soul can engage in eternally. Then it is recorded as an eternal act. As long as we continue on this spiritual path, the whole path we're now on, being an eternal path, remains the same path we will be on when we leave these bodies. So I was contemplating on how Narad Muni, how much love Narad Muni has for all the souls in the world, to spend all the time he has in this material universe preaching for the sake of other living entities. When he has full access to Krishna's personal dwellings, go inside of Krishna's bedroom. There, when he does, and Krishna worships him, fans him with a fan, sets him on the best seat in the house. Same way he did with his very close friend, who in his mind was believing he would be saving Krishna from being poverty-stricken when he took the sweet rice prepared for the great sage that was being prepared by this Mataji. Was that Krishna? Who? I forget who it was that was doing this. I might have been Mother Kunti. But someone was offering to this sage, and the boys were going out for lunch. So she took one of the cakes meant for, one of the sweets meant for the sage, and put it in the boys' lunchbox. And so, because the boy had heard that the curse was whoever had taken that sweet would now be subject to poverty for the rest of their lives. I'm trying to remember that story now. Sudam. That was Sudam Brahman.
Oh,
Yeah. Sudam took that cake that he knew had that curse on it because he didn't want Krishna to have to suffer that. And Krishna knew all that. This was done as a pastime to reveal the kind of love that devotees have for Krishna. They will take themselves a life of poverty, even though they have the opportunity to have great wealth and everything else that this so-called great world has to offer. But this great world, Mother Bhumi, is Krishna's own wife. She is not for our pleasure. And every act being engaged in by people who believe that the world is for their enjoyment, then they are accruing to themselves the act of, you'd say, lusting after God's own wife, what it is. So we have to put things in proper perspective in our minds and know that everything is in this world to serve the Supreme Person from whom everything is coming. So he has put everything in the place that he wants it to be. And if we, in our tiny little minds get the idea that we know better than God, and we start to have the belief that we have to change the way things are because God doesn't make it right. This is what has been concluded by those genetic scientists. See, from one perspective, intermingling with other human beings is interacting with their karma. So people that are not acting under the influence of the spiritual energy of the Supreme Person are creating karma with every act that they perform. And so anyone that engages in acts with them is also accumulating karma in that activity. So this is why it is advised for Brahmins not to take association from those that we are sent to give knowledge to, but to give association to. So we have a different mentality of people who are in the world hoping to get something from the world. We are going out into the world hoping to give to everyone we come in contact with that greatest treasure we have, that we know to be our communion with the Supreme Person, the supreme most of all souls there is. We have communion with this perfect person, Krishna. And through every step the devotee takes now, he is engaging in spiritual energy, also in Leela with Krishna. If you're in Krishna's energy, you're taking part in Leela with Krishna without realizing it. This whole system that Krishna has set up, it is Krishna's doing that has set this chanting of Hare Krishna into motion by the establishment of the institution of ISKCON that will eventually, as Yudhisthira was setting forth, to be able to produce from his, wasn't directly his offspring, his stepson, grandson, great-grandson. But they were producing a soul that would be qualified to become emperor of the world. And so by these revelations being given to us about how these qualified souls come into being, so there is the means revealed here in this statement by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. I am that sex life in marriage that is done according to precepts, religious precepts given and established since time immemorial. So what are those precepts that are done according to regulative principles? Then we develop the consciousness in our mind that is of a pure nature to know that the person we are with, if we are married, their body is not ours. But every man and woman is treating the other person's body as though it were their own. The wife is giving the man instructions constantly how to appear to the general public to suit her likes. It's the way married life is. So they each think of each other as their possession. My wife, my husband, my children, my house, my car, my, oh my goodness. What we are doing with ourselves. And with this in mind, it is the power, the force of that possessiveness that keeps us attached to it and develops within us the belief that we require We have to have all these things. This is the idea built into the consciousness of the mind, getting involved with the material energy. We depend upon it now. We look at it in our consciousness as something we have to have. Have to have a house, have to have a car, have to have kids, have to have this, have to have that. But originally, the state of consciousness that the soul is in its eternal relationship to the Supreme Person, everything is already perfect. And the ability to produce offspring as well is there. So we see in this Krishna consciousness movement a process being given to humanity at large. Every human being is going to reach a certain age in which they can no longer produce children. And they no longer do produce children. So what is advised by the Vedas at this stage of development and maturity, we develop that spiritual consciousness which is free from the dependence upon these physical bodies to produce offspring. Well, I should say they're dependent on the physical body, but not another person's body. So with that consciousness, then the soul becomes self-satisfied. Because realizing itself to have gone through every species of life before, it knows that as the soul is, that which it has previously believed itself to require of another, it has been in that other form as well. So I may be in a manly form now, believing that I need a womanly form to satisfy me. But I've also been in that womanly form before. So what is it that I am finding in the satisfying nature? Is the soul. The substance of the satisfaction we're finding is really that which the soul is itself finding the means of being able to experience. But it is the nature of the soul itself that real pleasure and real happiness, described as bliss, ananda, is to be found. So even with, because it is consciousness itself that we are experiencing happiness with the ability we have as souls to be able to create in our minds that consciousness which we are experiencing. If we do not engage in the material energy, we restrict ourselves from the ability to suffer pain and to be exposed to those things that cause pain and suffering. You sit in the house all day long, your exposure to the chances of being suddenly killed by some moving vehicle or something are reduced tremendously. But then what to speak if that you are engaging yourself in is of a spiritual nature? Then Krishna is in control, and nothing can happen to you unless Krishna chooses that to happen. Because then once you've surrendered your will to God, then the will that is being worked out in your life is not your own. Not your own. So then, if everything in your life that you're using, that you're acknowledging is not your own, and it belongs to Krishna, if you're working for Krishna's purpose, then you have access to everything there is. But see, the mind limits itself to what it's able to, when it's believing itself to be the one that is the controller, the possessor, the owner, then it's limited by its own abilities. But when it's surrendering itself to the will of the Supreme Person, now it's giving itself over to the will of the Supreme Absolute in whose hands every bit of control is. So wow. What a different perspective to have on the idea of being a servant when you come to know how powerful the one it is you're surrendering your life to. Krishna is in control of everything. He's in control of our memories. He's in control of what effects our past activities have had upon us, will have upon us, should have upon us, can have upon us. He knows our future. See, these human beings, if they are revealing that which seems to other human beings to be impossible, how can you see the future of another human being? Nobody thinks like that. But then what to speak if these are human beings manifesting this kind of ability? What does Krishna have as ability? Beyond imagination. Yes. Building a city so glorious. The breath gives you life. Breathing in one of Krishna's cities is life. Is the substance life needs for its continuance here. Just to be able to enter into one of Krishna's cities and breathe that which, by his perfect establishment of the society within his cities, and this is what kind of consciousness he wants us to develop so that we can also create heavenly cities within this planet. On this planet, and experience that. He wants us to be happy, knowing that God wants us to be happy, and God is all-powerful. What keeps us from being happy then? Our own activities. It's our own involvement in pursuit of exchanging that place in our mind for what we know Krishna to be with something else. And then going and pursuing that instead. So, we do have to conduct ourselves here in such a way that we continue our existence here to be able to serve. So we have to perform the daily activities, but we can perform those same daily activities other people are performing, which causes karma reactions, and get eternal benefit by it. Wow. You go out to the store, if you're buying for yourself, you're accumulating karma. And as you eat that food, every bite is causing you more and more indebtedness to the life that was given up. That life form that gave itself up for your continuance now is causing you indebtedness to it. Life for life. But if instead of believing that is made for your pleasure, realizing and knowing from whom it came, then offering it back to the one from whom all has come, it removes you from the indebtedness, because now you are not seeing it as that made for your pleasure. You're seeing it as that made by us having the ability now to please the one from whom everything came. How would there be a way to please God who has everything? You figure out with our mind. He already has everything. Can't give him anything. But he says that if you offer it to me with loving devotion, that means we have to have a viewpoint towards him with a perspective lovingly and devoted. And to the extent eventually that he becomes more important to us than our own well-being, our own lives, our own tastes, our own satisfaction, our own hope. We put our hope and faith and trust in Krishna, in Krishna's words, in Krishna's ways, Krishna's examples of his devotees and his servants, revealing to us perfect prayers in how to live a life in such a way that our consciousness can give us such a happiness that we will not be able to know any other way. This happiness is incomparable to any other kind of consciousness. And if someone believes they have a superior form, let them present that to us and we'll see. But our advice is, take up this chanting for 6 months. If you don't find 2 hours every day to be able, then you know you're deprived. If you can't find 2 hours to spend with God, then you are deprived. How do we get deprived? By consciousness. We have to realize what has brought us to this state of existence we are in is the consciousness we are having. And we have developed that consciousness by choice. We have made decisions in the past that could have pushed us into circumstances that keep us from being able to make the choices we want to make now. But this chanting puts us in a state of freedom. That is total freedom, the real freedom from the bonds. When we talk about freedom, we're talking about being freed from the indebtedness that normal everyday activities automatically cause the human being to be forced into because of the fact that it's been put into this material, temporary set of circumstances in what we call the universe. And it has gotten itself here. We have gotten ourselves here by having a form of consciousness. And now we can get ourselves out by developing a form of consciousness, which means having the right attitude towards the Supreme Person, putting into practice that guideline of the laws of that Supreme Person, engaging in the activities that the Supreme Person advises us to engage in by revealing to us the benefits of engaging in such activities, and then allowing us to make the decision for ourselves. What are you going to do with your life? You want to create some artificial means of experiencing pleasure, or do you want to know what you're made of? So if you want to know what you're made of, then you surrender to the Supreme Person and he will reveal to you things about yourself you didn't even know. Yeah. He can reveal to us every life we've ever taken, some of which we're being protected from, because if we knew the mental attitudes we had that caused us to be put here, then we would not be able to have the understanding to know how Krishna could ever forgive us. It goes beyond our ability to forgive, or what kind of consciousness we have had towards Krishna that's caused us now to be put into a place where death is the sentence for every human being in this universe. Death is the sentence. So what does that make us? Are we great benefactors by this death process? Or is it due to the fact that we have committed some evil in the past that now we have to remove ourselves from? Automatically removed by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Any comments, any questions, any realization?
Nice to know, Prabhu.
Sure.
The kind of vipra's like 3 pandas, like Jnana Panda, Upasana Panda, and Karma Panda. I don't know about those 3.
You don't know what?
Yeah, I don't know about this kind of vipra's.
The different kinds of karma they accumulate.
No, the vipras, in the purport it is mentioned, Jnana Kanda, Upasana Kanda.
Oh, the three different kinds of, yeah. Accumulation of circumstances. Some entities are taking up religion for the sake of feeling it's a responsible place in society. God is it's secondary. Religion and the religious performances that it involves in society to be able to associate with other people, perform functions there, you gain friends that you can get business from, these kinds of things. In the minds of some people, this is what place religion serves to them. And so they get a certain result from that, which is like heavenly planets, to the extent that they are willing to surrender themselves to the laws of. But as Srila Prabhupada explains in the purports, all these other lower processes, the ultimate goal of them is a place in the heavenly planets, even up to the highest planet. But devotees being given the understanding that any place in this material universe is a place of death. And the opportunity being offered by this process is that which removes us totally from the effects of the karmic reactions that would otherwise cause us to have to take birth again after we go through this death. But if we learn to live within the energy that keeps us from accumulating more karma, then we eventually become totally free from the effects. Krishna minimalizes the effects of that karma on us by even allowing us to go through the effects in dream state. And so even though you experience it with your mind, ultimately the mind is the center of experience with the pain and happiness and all this other stuff. So it is with the mind that Krishna can allow us to experience it to a minimal extent that we would otherwise have to go through the suffering of. And then for the most part, what we're being given to do in the use of mantras for offering then puts automatically into our mind that spiritual vibration of love that is developed by the use and the understanding of the meanings of these mantras. We're constantly in a state of mind making Krishna to be the most important object of our love, of our devotion, of the aim of our life, the goal of our life, the person we want to know the most about. And then in that state of consciousness, constantly acting in that state of consciousness through the activities we take part in through the day, the relationship just gets greater and greater and greater. And then our wanting to give it to others increases as well. And we want then, what develops automatically is that want for others to have everything you have. The want for others to be able to taste and experience the joy, the happiness, the pleasure that comes by having a clean mind, a pure hope for the future of all mankind, a love for everyone we come in contact with. People may be displaying acts of disobedience, acts of outright criminal activity. But we can develop knowledge that that soul has been restricted from gaining pure knowledge by its own activities and the consciousness it has developed. And we have the key to unlock the consciousness of any human being by feeding them the seed, by instilling within them the seed of Krishna's name and the seed of knowing the Maha Mantra, implanting that seed and the knowledge that the result this mantra produces cannot be produced by any other sound vibration. And total spiritual energy, God Himself is empowering this mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare, personally with. And there is no other mantra compared. All glories to Srila Prabhupada for bringing this mantra to the world and giving it to those in such a way that we can spread it to everyone we come in contact with now. The name of God is supposed to be known by all living entities, to know the supreme sound vibration that the human being can create. Joy. Any more comments, any questions? Joy. Tomorrow is Ekadasi, so we can look forward to offering that day in great meditation and activities engaged in loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jai. Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.